just trying to see if I have my members here so we can make sure that we establish a quorum. Is Vice Chair Jackson on?
I'm here.
Okay, great. And what about Councilmember Wiles? Okay. I guess she'll log in when she's here. So since I have you, Vice Chair, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting, and then Councilmember Wiles can jump in when she's available if she just lets me know that she's here. We have no consent items. Councilmember Jackson, Vice Chair Jackson, do you approve the minutes of March 5th?
I do.
Okay, I approve them as well, so we'll move those forward. We're going to go to item 3, our federal legislative update. I see Izzy is here.
Hi, yes, Madam Chair, I'm here, but also Shanetta, and I think Shanetta's going to start off with us today.
Okay, we'll start with Shanetta. Go ahead, Shanetta.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Wanting to give you your federal update of what's happening here in DC. Both the House and Senate are back in session. The House got back after a little weather delay and came back in session on Tuesday. And so the big topics that are going on here, and I'm sure if you've had your TV on, you've heard about some of them. We'll start out in the Senate. The Senate is focused on a couple big issues this week. One of them is the confirmation hearing for the DHS secretary. The nominee was Mark Wayne Mullen. He had his hearing starting yesterday. They were quite a show. That's all I'll say about that if you again saw the news. But he did get voted out of committee 8-7. So that means it will go to the floor of the entire Senate for them to vote on. And he is likely to be confirmed and be the new DHS secretary. The other big thing that's happening in the Senate this week is they are voting on the SAVE Act. As some of you may recall, the SAVE Act is a large bill that already passed the House on a pretty much a partisan vote. But basically is a bill that, among other things, will allow federal control over some aspects of federal elections, meaning it would tell states that they can't do mail-in ballots, that they can't do same-day voting, that they have to have a certain type of voter ID, where honestly, some states' IDs won't qualify. The majority of state IDs may not qualify. Things like school IDs, which some states allow, wouldn't qualify. So that bill is being debated right now in the Senate. As you may also know, the Senate requires 60 votes. It's not simply a majority rule. And right now they don't have those votes. So while they're debating that bill, it seems likely that SAVE Act will fail, excuse me. But they wanted to put it on the floor. It was something that the president said was a priority. So they are debating that and having that discussion as well this week. So that is pretty much what's taking the Senate's time. And then the other two big topics that are happening here that are also being discussed is obviously, as we mentioned, DHS, the DHS funding issue. Every other agency was funded this year except DHS. The Democrats opposed funding them because of the issues with ICE. And that has begun to affect, if you've traveled in the last few weeks, or again, if you watch the news, you see that TSA is struggling. They have call outs and people, they miss their first check, and that is causing some issues at our airports. As we speak, the Tom Human, who was put in place to work with DHS, and he has been meeting with the Senate Democrat leadership this morning. The last readout I saw of that said it was a good meeting. They're glad the president and Senate want someone to come to the table, but they are still far apart. The sticking point issue still tends to be about ICE's use of judicial warrants, ICE's use of administrative warrants instead of judicial warrants, and ICE's masking and not identifying themselves. Some of the other things the administration have agreed to change, like limiting their involvement around certain spaces, like they wouldn't go in. They're not saying they wouldn't completely go into hospitals or religious institutions, but that they would try to limit their involvement and engagement there. So there has been some offers on both sides. They're continuing to talk, but no resolution is really in sight. And so I'm sorry to say, if you have to get on a plane in the next week or two, you're probably still going to have some TSA issues. They are scheduled to go on both chambers to go on recess for generally the recess is happening because it's the upcoming Easter holiday. So in about a little over 2 weeks, they are going on recess. So people are hoping that as they continue to talk, that maybe they will resolve this before they go on that Easter Passover holiday break. But I would say stay tuned. And again, if you're getting a flight next week or so, it's likely not to be solved in the next week. The other big issue then outside of DHS and the TSA struggles is obviously the Iran war. As the war continues to go on, the price of gas continues to go up. Western states are beginning to suffer fuel shortages. And so there are obviously complications here and abroad. What we are seeing on the Hill is they're talking about a supplemental bill. Originally, the thought it would be about $50 billion with a B. Those estimates have gone up tremendously as the war has gone on. I think we're entering our third week. So it is likely that a supplemental more than $50 billion will be having to be introduced sometime this year to fund the war. It too is likely to be along partisan lines, so they may have to use this process that I think we've mentioned before called reconciliation, where they can do it just on a party line and not need Dems. But obviously, when you're talking about doing that, it affects the budget and the planning for FY27 and what we may be able to do in there. So those are some of the top lines of what's happening in DC this week. I'll pause for questions and also for Lizzie to add anything that I may have missed.
Okay, and I just want to acknowledge that our Council Member Wiles is online as well. Before we take questions, because that's a lot that you're having, let's just go to Lizzie and give her update, and then we can do the questions at the end, and questions and comments. Go ahead, Lizzie. It's good to see you.
Perfect. Great to see you as well. In addition to what Shanetta laid out, I did want to give one quick update, and that is in regards to the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program, otherwise known as BRIC. So this program was administered under FEMA. It was paused. The administration pushed back when they were doing reviews of all different programs, saying that this was for more so climate policies, environmental processes, and a lawsuit was put at federal court ruling determining that was not the case. These types of grant funds for tribal, state, and localities are used specifically for hazard mitigation in the sake of a hurricane or tornado. So think of if there's plumbing issues or if there needs to be debris clearing, controlled fire burns. That's the type of funding this is used for in preparation for those types of events. So FEMA did put out a notice saying that they have done a full evaluation of the program. They will be resuming the program, it looks like. There's no specific date quite yet, but we did get notice from FEMA itself saying that this would likely be coming back after that extensive review. And of course, after the legal process carried out, it seems. So that's an update that we're a little hopeful for, and we'll make sure, Madam Chair, to keep you guys posted on when that officially comes available.
Okay, thank you, Lizzie. I'm going to start with my committee members because I have a couple questions and a couple comments. So I'll go ahead and start with Vice Chair Jackson first. Do you have some questions, comments to Shanetta and Lizzie?
Yes. Thank you, Shanetta and Lizzie, so much for your updates. I was just in DC this past week attending the National League of Cities conference. So I was definitely got to experience some of that travel delays and things in that nature and tornado warnings. One of the things I learned was that I was told by a lobbying legal firm that ICE has an operational budget that's already been funded for 3 years, I believe through the Restore Act. Can you all confirm if that is true or what that person's talking about?
Yes, ICE was fully funded and their funding was expanded. It actually was in the big, beautiful bill that passed last summer. So when we talk about, so they actually are fully funded. And the issue is with DHS funding, what's not funded is TSA and all the other functions of DHS. Like DHS is actually the largest federal agency, and it has various different departments in it that deal with Homeland Security issues, TSA, FEMA, all these other departments. Those are not funded. ICE was officially funded through the Big Beautiful Bill.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. And then I was just curious if you all had any federal updates about the Pam Bondi hearings.
Yes, I mean, Shanetta, if you want to take that first, as I know on the
Sure.
Democratic side, there was some activity.
Yeah, so there was supposed to be hearings. They had subpoena the Attorney General Bondi. They had met yesterday. They came in. Long story short, the majority leader wanted it to be a little bit more informal than the Dems wanted a full hearing, which would have meant cameras and recordings and taking an oath, and the majority leader did not want that. There's pushbacks from the Dems, and basically it didn't happen. And then there was a press conference. And so it is basically right now, I think because the majority gets to set the terms, that they're saying, look, we brought her in, she was willing to talk to you all. I don't understand what the problem is. And the Dems are saying that is unacceptable because they want it on the record and I think importantly under oath.
And you probably saw there was some fireworks, especially after that briefing. In the meeting, it seems that there was a gulf between what the Democrats wanted, what the Republicans were willing to give. James Comer, who leads the Oversight Committee, said things that I think kind of ruffled feathers, of course, with some Democrats. And so now where we stand is Attorney General Pam Bondi has said, I'm willing to testify, I've been subpoenaed, but until we're able to get to a negotiation or agreement between these two, I think it's still at a standstill and, will continue to be that way until we're able to get more clarification on what the members want to do next. So not a ton there, but that's the latest we've heard.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councilmember Wiles. Councilmember Wiles, do you have any questions, comments about the updates that Shanetta and Lizzie provided?
Hi, thank you for your updates. I do not have any questions at this time.
Okay, Shanetta and Lizzie, I have a couple things. So with the SAVE Act, because I look at not just the main media, I go on podcasts, look at different media outlets. With the SAVE Act, I mean, are they just going to eventually give up on that because it doesn't look like they're going to pass this? Or are they going to do something with the filibuster? Has that been decided, or that's just a non-issue on that?
Well, I think with the current iteration, I'll answer your first question. I don't think the current iteration of the SAVE Act will pass, and that it will fail because the Republican senators have been reluctant to filibuster. And one, they don't want to do a walking filibuster, which means you actually have to hold the floor, which means they would actually have to speak and stand up, and that literally means not even taking a bathroom break, by the way. So it's not an easy thing to do. And if you all are aware, many of our senators are not exactly young and spry, so you just think about that. Not to gross you out, but there's no way a lot of 70-year-olds can hold the floor without taking a bathroom break. And so that is the challenge, but it's also just a bigger principle. It's sort of like if they give up the filibuster, the Republicans are looking at it, and quite frankly, the Dems did the same thing when they were in the majority, that once you break it, you break it. And then it's broken for everybody. And then they go back to simple, it's 50+1. And everyone sort of understands that would end the way the Senate works, and you would end any hope of bipartisanship given where we are right now. So I think despite the pressure from the president and others, that I feel like what we're hearing now, that the Republican senators are like, we're not going to do the filibuster because we know that it would change the way the Senate runs from here on out. But that being said, I don't think the entirety of the SAVE Act is dead. I think this version is dead, but that they will probably come back with another version at some point and either try to pass it in reconciliation or try to pass a slimmed down version. But I don't think the president is giving up on this issue. It just might come back in another form.
Okay, so then my second question is this. So we know that the president is on the SAVE Act. And so we're about to take a position on to me, a very good bill that was bipartisan in the Senate, which is the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. the president stated that he wasn't going to sign any bills unless this one was signed. And I guess the concern is this is a pretty good bill. I know that there's some, I guess the part B of that question, I've heard that there's some questions about this bill that is going on in the House of some parts of the bill that a lot of those representatives do not like. So there might be some concerns, even though it passed bipartisan out of the Senate. I heard that there's some issues with it that some Senate representatives have in the House. So just I'm putting everything together, but could you address that?
So so the House and Senate passed different versions, but both of them were bipartisan. I would say that the Senate bill has a little bit more in it that, and one of the big issues that the House doesn't like is the issue of restricting investment in housing by corporations or entities or investors. The House didn't have that provision in there. That's a provision that Democrats really wanted. They put it in the Senate. So that's sort of a stickler point. And there are a few other issues that the two bills are different in. I think that probably gets solved in some way. There's so much bipartisan support for housing. Again, particularly in the House, both R's and D's are all up for election this year. They need to go home and said they did something. So I do feel like the bill will pass. It may be a little pushback back and forth. But this bill is something, I mean, when you have the likes of Elizabeth Warren and a very progressive Democrat supporting something that also you have conservative members of the Republican caucus supporting, I mean, that's a rarity. So I think everybody understands that this bill needs to get through. As for the president signing it, so fun little fact, he doesn't have to and it still can go into law. But also I think we were aware that this president sometimes says things and straddles back. I find it hard to believe that if a bipartisan Congress passes this housing bill in the state of everything that's going on, that they will see as a win that at some point the president will not sign it. And so take it for what it's worth.
This has also been a point of consternation for a lot of Republicans specifically. They know they have to go back to their districts and states for the midterm elections. And so there seems to be a big gulf between the president wants to get this bill, the SAVE Act, passed. There really is no route as it currently stands, which means some senators are suggesting, let's hold a vote. Let's have Democrats, on record with their vote, and then we can proceed forward and at least campaign on that, so that we can focus on other important pieces of legislation that are bipartisan, including this housing package that you referenced, Madam Chair. So another thing that's been a problem for the 21st Housing Road to, the housing package, is because the House feels that the Senate is jamming them on passing their version. So the House passed its version of the housing package. The Senate had their version. The Senate released a new version that contained some portions and provisions that Shanetta referenced, but there wasn't really any discussions before that was released, anything that really brought the House members into agreeing with it. And that's why House Financial Chairman French Hill, who was the author of the House version, is against it because they feel that they've had their package taken from them in the Senate. It's tale as old as time, House versus Senate issues. Okay. So that is the summary of where we stand. I think there's hope for the housing package, but until the president allows the Senate to at least vote on the SAVE Act or find some other way forward, we might be in a jam come midterm elections on that.
Okay. Well, thank you for addressing those questions. And just a comment, I mean, I know that with the gas, I know I paid $4.92, and that's a lot for gas. But also too, I just a comment, and this is just a personal comment. I don't see how any representative or senator can go home and knowing that the DHS is not funded and these TSA workers who are struggling specifically because their pay is very low, and just because of all the dangers that we're facing, can go on an Easter break and know that these individuals have not been funded and they're suffering. There's a lot going on. I feel for, and Councilmember Wiles and Councilmember and Vice Chair Jackson were at the airport. I haven't been at the airport yet, but I will be in a couple weeks coming to DC. But just to understand that and just to know that people are suffering and they're not getting paid, I don't see how anyone can go home for any break. I hope that this somebody has to do something. And I think what's going to happen, I know some of the constituents I talked to, they're going to start calling their representatives, because this is too much, not only for the people who have to travel, not only for the safety of our country, but for the people that are working. These are working class people, and these are the people that the representatives stated that they're supposed to represent, working class. And then they're letting these people not have any pay. So I'm very disturbed by that, just as not only just representing Aurora, but just because we have, TSA people that probably do live in Aurora that work at the airport, or anybody else, Coast Guard, FEMA, all of that. So that's just a personal thing I wanted to just say, and I'm hoping that there can be some type of someone moves over on whatever side to get this resolved as soon as possible. So, Councilmember Wiles, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I was just going to say, just an FYI for anybody traveling in and out of Denver, the DIA airport staff are asking for gift cards of up to $20, no more than $20 for food, gas, whatever, to give to TSA workers. So if you are traveling, you may want to grab a couple $10 or a $20 one. They have places you can drop it off at, because yeah, none of them are rich and they're struggling, and yet they're showing up to work. We had absolutely no TSA delays. So kudos to them for showing up to work while not being paid. The airline was a completely different story, but the TSA workers absolutely are behaving with the utmost professionalism, doing their job, and they deserve to be treated better. It's not fair.
Yeah. And I plan on giving some of those gift cards when I travel, if it's still, we're still in this particular situation. I'm going to go to Councilmember Hancock and Mayor Kaufman. Do you have any comments or anything that you would like to ask Shanetta and Lizzie before they get off this call?
No, Chair, you have said it exactly, my sentiments. So thank you very much.
Okay, Mayor Kaufman?
Nothing from me.
Okay. All right. Shanetta and Lizzie, thank you so much for these very valuable updates. I really do appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing what's happening going forward. So thank you so much for your time.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
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 Okay, so we're going to go now to 3A. Liz, it looks like we're going to do 3A first because it's underneath the federal legislative update. This is the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. And I do want to say something, Liz. Thank you so much for breaking the bill out by sections. That was so good. So I really do appreciate that with all of the links. But go forward.
No, you're no problem at all, Councilmember Lawson. This is an incredibly lengthy bill. There's a lot packed into it. We've been watching both the House and Senate versions for some time, seeing what would come out of this, as we want to make sure whatever the city does do a potential position on is kind of what is going to be moving forward. I think we've had a lot of discussion over this during that past conversation with our Cornerstone team. So I'm happy to get into all of these details if you want, but we do think that with this Senate version of the combination of the bills, while we still might see some negotiation and changes as they move it through the House and process and potentially going to a conference in this legislation, we think there's a lot of great stuff in this bill with combining both bills that would really help us as a city provide for additional housing flexibilities and funding to our community and our residents. So staff is asking for a support position on this. I am, again, happy to go into details on this legislation. However, it is quite long, so I wanted to save us all the time if we could.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Vice Chair Jackson. Do you have any questions, specifics on this bill? It is very lengthy. And do you support the position of the city to support this federal legislation?
I don't have any questions and I support the city's decision to support it.
Okay, Councilmember Wiles.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to give kudos to Liz because the breakout was incredibly helpful. Send me all the details. I appreciate it. It just helps me to make sure I'm forming my own decisions correctly. So absolutely support it. And thank you again for all of the backup.
Yeah. And Liz, I also support it too. And I've already told you my thanks for the breakout. It was very helpful. So
Wonderful. Thank you all so much.
okay, so we're going to go to our state legislative update. It looks like we have Peggy and Totsi.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. Quick update on the legislative session. We have almost 500 bills that have been introduced. We do expect another tranche of bills introduced the week of March 30th. That is when the budget at this time is expected to begin. And there, of course, will be the long bill, which is the budget bill, and a slew of other orbital bills that will be introduced to try to balance the budget and address that $850 million hole that we are in. The economic forecast will occur this afternoon, so we'll have more information. There's kind of been some rumors that we may be another 100 million in the hole, which I think is just going to send the Joint Budget Committee members into a tailspin. We may just see them in the corner of the Capitol in the fetal position crying. They are trying to finalize the budget. Like I said, it's supposed to get pushed back, but it may, I'm sorry, it's supposed to get introduced on the 30th, but it may get pushed back. They still have some big ticket items that they're debating, like the spinoff of Pinnacle to allow it to provide additional insurance products and work in other states. The bills that have been scheduled in appropriations that have just been sitting there, they are starting to show up on the calendar. As we've talked about in the past, if they have a fiscal note, that will really determine the fate of those bills. Representative Brown, for instance, has said if there is even a dollar fiscal note on some of these bills, it is going to be dead. Couple updates on some of the bills we've been watching for you. House Bill 1001, which is the home bill. As you recall, this is an update to last year's YIGB bill. It was amended significantly, passed both chambers, and is on its way to the governor's office. There's still some concerns out there about local control, but because this bill came from the governor, it will be signed here in the next couple of weeks. Retail theft prevention program, we're in a support position on that bill. It's scheduled for March 24th. As you recall, this one creates the Retail Theft Prevention Advisory Board and grant program within the AG's office to address felony level theft, gift card theft, coordinate investigations, prosecutions. So this bill is expected to move through the legislature in a pretty rapid fashion once it gets started next week. Senate Bill 70, which was the license plate reader bill that we took an amend position on. This bill requires a warrant for the use of license plate readers. It is sitting in Senate Appropriations. The governor has indicated significant concerns with the bill, particularly around that warrant piece. Senator Mobley is at that point where she's trying to balance and figure out whether she's going to roll the dice and see if the governor vetoes it or if she's going to amend that warrant piece of the bill. So we'll see what she does on that one, but we stay in constant contact with her and we'll keep you posted on that bill. The other bill in the Fourth Amendment kind of area that we've been watching is House Bill 1037. It prohibits law enforcement and other government entities from purchasing or obtaining personal data from third parties in exchange for anything of value. And then it too has received a lot of concern from the governor's office and local governments. It has been laid over in House Judiciary. They had a hearing on it, but didn't vote on it, didn't introduce the amendment that we had worked on with them. Hasn't been rescheduled yet, but we'll keep you posted on that one as well. And I'll tag out and pass it over to Tots.
Okay, Totsie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Peggy. I just wanted to bring you some updates on House Bill 1039, the muni jail bill that passed the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday. So that will be going to the floor. As you know, we worked out amendments with the proponents of the bill, and that should be no issue any longer. House Bill 1102 is a bill that's being carried by Representative Mandy Lindsay that redirects HUTF funds from cities to the DRIVES program. Working with this municipal league and the Department of Revenue, we have an amendment on that bill now that says that if the partner bill, which is 1289, passes, that's the only way that the lane that 1102 can work. 1102 would take our funding away, but 1289 would backfill all of that. And so we worked out the deal with the Department of Revenue, and we're just waiting now for that to go through the Senate, and we're watching the 1289 tax reform bill. And that's what I've got for you today.
Okay, I'll start with my my vice chair first. And do you have any questions for Tatsi and Peggy on their report, or any other additional questions or bills that you would like to get information on? Vice Chair Jackson.
I don't have any questions or information to share. Thank you for your update.
Okay,
Thank you.
Councilmember Wiles.
Yeah, just one clarifying question. What you were just talking about with the Drives Act. So it sounds like it's sort of just moving money around, essentially. Is that what they're kind of just doing?
Yeah,
Like
the
you take
redirect.
money, you give me money, I give you money. Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing some sort of key piece of.
Oh
We
no,
could put
that,
you on the joint budget committee.
It's like basically, right? It's like
Oh.
basically a shell game. Like you
Right.
hold my dollar, I'll hold your dollar. We both got what we wanted, right? Like
that's
And
kind of
borrow a
what.
dollar from
but-
Councilwoman Jackson. Right?
exactly. And I'm going to take Allie's money, but I'm going to give it to Angela, and we're all
Right.
good. So
Yeah, that's right.
okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing
You got
something.
it.
Thank
Oh
you
no,
for
that's how
the
this place works.
God.
You betcha.
Thank you.
I'll go to Mayor Kaufman.
Oh, thanks, Madam Chair. Tatsi, what does 1289, House Bill 1289 do?
That is a big tax reform bill on that revenue is running. It's got a lot of moving pieces to it that I am not fully aware of. I've not dug into that piece, but it's a tax expenditure bill. They're changing. Yeah, it's just a reform bill for revenue. And I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't have
Okay.
much more information on that.
Okay, thanks.
But
Well,
it
I-
involves us. It involves the cities.
Okay, well, we got, okay, Peggy, did you want to go further into that before
Yeah,
we,
I was
and then
just
Liz
gonna
looks
say-
like she might want to say something as well.
Oh,
So
sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead, Peggy.
Peggy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to share 1289. It's part of a package of what, 5 or 6 tax bills, Tatsi, that several legislators, including Senator Weissman, are very involved in drafting. And they change tax credits, exemptions, deductions, and again, try to address some of the shortfalls that we've seen in the state. Specifically, one of the things that it looks like is it looks into is fuel and tobacco tax collection discounts, space flight property, precious metal, a bunch of different tax credits, and takes some of those away and changes exemptions and deductions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Hancock, do you have any questions on, or that you would like to bring forth to Peggy or Tatsi on the
No
report?
questions at this time, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Peggy and Tatsi. How many more days do
Thank
you have
you.
left?
Too many.
55.
55. Okay. That's still a long ways to go. All right. Thank you both. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
So we're going to go to our positions. So we're going to go to 4A, HB 261308. Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. So this bill is the lot splitting approval by subject jurisdictions. Essentially what this bill would do is take a 2,000 square foot lot at minimum or greater, and then people would be able to split this lot through an administrative approval process. Staff is recommending to oppose this legislation. We already allow for administrative subdivision of land. We actually have our own processes that we utilize for this to ensure that any lot splitting would be conforming to city standards. So what that looks like is making sure that that's consistent with our comprehensive plan, complies with our land use codes, applies with and is in compliance with other adopted city regulations and master plan approvals that come before the Planning and Zoning Commission or the City Council decision prior to that property. And then it also fits in with the city's existing infrastructure and public improvement plan. So since we already allow for this, we do allow it specifically in certain different kind of residential lots, and we have our own square footage attached to them as noted in the description. We do believe, again, this would be a violation of our home rule authority. Splitting these lot sizes in 1,000 square feet are small, and it also could restrict, in addition to setting our own zoning standards based on the needs of our community and the needs of how we build out our infrastructure. It's just an additional point, as it doesn't allow for consideration of our own infrastructure capacity, such as road use and development, fire and police services, environmental concerns, and this also does not guarantee affordable housing outcomes. So for those reasons, staff is recommending an opposed position on this legislation.
Yeah, I'll start with Vice Chair Wiles. Vice Chair Wiles, do you have questions, and do you support the position of opposed that the city is recommending?
Actually, Alli's the vice chair. I can go next.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Vice Chair Jackson. I apologize. I was looking at your picture. Sorry about that, Council. Sorry about that, Vice Chair.
You're all good. I don't have any questions, and I will support the opposed position.
Okay, Councilmember Wiles.
Thank you. I do support the opposed position. I do have one clarifying question. So if I'm understanding it correctly, our rules don't require that the person doing any sort of splitting or lot dividing that we allow informs their mortgage company, but the bill did require it. Do I understand that correctly?
If you don't mind, I would love to tap one of our Lena, who does our legal, to answer that question.
Okay.
Lena, I hope you're still on. Could you answer the mortgage related question, please?
Yes, I'm here. And yes, you are correct, council member. We do not have that requirement in our code currently. That would be new in the bill, and the bill would put that onus on the city to track that. And so that would be an additional process than what we have currently.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. It's interesting. So thank you.
Okay, and I also do oppose, support the city's position of oppose. I know that in here as well, it doesn't really support a very strong infrastructure review of anything at all from what I was reading on the bill. And like I said, like you said, Liz, and it doesn't really guarantee affordability. I mean, they might have all these tiny homes for 1,000 square feet, and they probably look beautiful and everything, but they're still going to be in a high price range probably. So I don't really know if that really supports the affordability that we're looking for, especially for people who don't make a ton of money and who can't afford maybe $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 for a home. So that's just my comment on that, but I do support the position. Mayor Kaufman, Councilmember Hancock, do you have any questions? Mayor Kaufman?
None from me.
Okay. Councilmember Hancock?
None from me. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Liz, let's go to 4B, House Bill 261313.
So 1313 is the Address Requirements Statewide Affordable Housing Fund. This bill is in direct relation to Proposition 123 that passed, I believe, 2 years ago now at this point. This bill would make several adjustments to the Prop 123 program in terms of easing growth targets to be more in line with current conditions that municipalities are facing when it comes to growing our affordable housing supply as mandated by the 3% annual growth target. So it specifically does targeted growth via a formula. There's good faith waivers so that if municipalities are trying, but they're not able to maybe meet the targets despite all of the actions that they're taking, they can apply for a waiver for that. There's additional alternative calculations of methods for what it looks like for donating land as well. and then modification for how counties can qualify for funds in addition to that. City staff is looking for an amend position. This bill does support our legislative goals for this year of adjusting Prop 123 to make it easier to accomplish our goals. But we do have two major concerns with this bill. So the formula is utilizing county job growth. So we're a bit concerned that's not going to be quite representative of higher growth cities. So we would want to see a little bit more additional flexibility with that, or utilize municipal growth targets instead. And then secondly, there's some more administrative reporting that we would be needing to do as a city, especially in terms of reporting in addition to what we're already doing. We would like to see that a little bit more streamlined. We already do a lot of reporting for the federal government related to HUD and our federal funds there. So any way that we would be able to kind of duplicate that reporting we're already doing would make a lot more sense. It'd be a lot easier for us to be in compliance with this. The bill sponsors have indicated they are more than willing to talk about amendments and changes on this legislation. So staff is really hoping that we would get to come back to you with this with a support position, hopefully in the future.
Okay, I'll start with Vice Chair Jackson. Vice Chair Jackson, questions, and do you support the city's position of amend?
No questions, and I support the position of amend.
Okay, Councilmember Wiles.
No questions. I also support that.
Okay, and I support the position of amend as well. Okay, let's go to 4C, House Bill 26-1329.
Okay, so this bill, 1329, is the motor vehicle stunt drive and takeover penalties. This bill would make further definitions in state law for what constitutes as street racing, which has been a major problem identified by not only the city, but other municipalities in our surrounding areas as well. So it creates additional definitions for what constitutes as street racing, drag racing, burnout, etc. It also implements different penalties for engaging in street racing and street racing behaviors. So the city is looking to support this bill. This is another bill that's part of our 2026 legislative priorities. This continues to be an issue for us. And we think that this bill would provide additional ways that we would be able to address street racing as supported by the state.
Okay, start with Vice Chair Jackson. Questions, and do you support the city's position of support on this bill?
Yeah, I have a question. Does this bill establish minimum sentencing or penalties?
Yes, there are minimum penalties that would be in this legislation as defined by the state. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how does home rule get factored into that?
So the city we have some of our own ordinances when it comes to street racing, but the state would allow us to bring those charges to the state level. This bill actually is less restrictive than our own state sentencing, but we think that this bill is a great step in the direction of assisting us with addressing street racing by having different definitions of what street racing is that need to get put in a state law. In addition to that, being able to kind of address the other activities, including organizing street racing, which we don't have currently in our codes and ordinances. And I believe I do have sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. But we could add that as a city council if we decide to our charter amendments or charter code.
There's some things we can add, some things we can't. I believe the previous council has done what they were able to do in regards to street racing, but this gives additional options for us and additional penalties for other areas of street racing that we don't have in our code. I don't think that we can put in our code. And I'm happy to talk to.
Wait. Okay, let me acknowledge you. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Chair Lawson.
Okay.
It's Pete, City Attorney.
Okay, City Attorney Schulte, go ahead.
So Councilmember Jackson, there's a lot of preemption there by the state. So there's really limited what we can do. So that's why a lot of us were asking the state to get involved. So because there was stuff, I mean, and it's well settled law. There's a lot of preemption there. So just for that information.
Okay, great.
Does that address your question, Vice Chair Jackson?
It does. One more follow-up to that. Okay. When we say we, because I see in the definition, it's a statewide issue. Have we reached out to other cities to talk about this or request the state to do this?
Yes. I know APD has been working with the state patrol, the counties and other cities. They actually been working for the last 4 years. They've had a task force for street racing pretty regularly in the summer. So it's been on the agenda for a while now.
Okay. Okay.
Chair
Oh.
Lawson, if
Go
I could
ahead,
add.
go ahead, Liz.
Thank you. If I could just add to that, I've also had several conversations with other municipalities, Denver, Brookfield, Colorado Springs, et cetera, especially in Adams County as well. This is a major issue for a lot of different communities.
Okay. Yeah, and I've definitely heard about this. I do think this bill will disproportionately impact people of color, and I don't know if minimum sentencing, maximizing, writing this into law is what's going to actually solve this issue. And I'm really curious about how home rule plays into all of this. So I do not support it. I would oppose this bill as my position. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Jackson. I'm going to go to Councilmember Wiles.
So I am a little torn on this bill only because I feel like when we ask questions about other bills in general, the home rule is kind of thrown at us repeatedly as don't mess with our home rule because we don't want to give that up. And this feels a little bit of a gray area to me. However, because I'm in my area, Ward 2, which is nonstop street racing and, police responses are really, really slow out here. For the sake of my ward, I have to support it.
Yeah, and before I go to you, Mayor Kaufman, for me as well, where I live at Smoky Hill, Parker Road, this has been a really big issue for my residents in Ward 5 in particular. So I will be supporting this. I am glad that it has some more of a regional support. I do have one question for you, Liz, and I just want to make sure, I know you discussed this with me. They will be defining the term burnout. Will that definition be more clarified, what a burnout is?
We're hoping that gets more clarified as we move forward, but I think this is a great point for a lot of things that a lot of municipalities, including us, have been asking for.
Okay, so I support this as well. Mayor Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we lost some of our home rule authority, and Pete could probably describe this a lot better. In December of last year, when the Supreme Court ruled that we cannot have criminal penalties greater than the state criminal code, I think we did lose some. And let me just say, culturally, I don't. This is just an observation. I don't think this is people of color that are predominantly the people that do this. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Kaufman. Councilmember Hancock.
Yes, I like you, Councilmember Lawson. I've gotten a tremendous amount of calls from constituents very concerned with street racing up and down the corridor and the dangers to that. I think there's a straw man there in terms of what if this disproportionately impacts people of color. I don't really buy that argument. I think if anybody's street racing, putting anyone in danger, that's a problem and it should be addressed. And to the mayor's point about losing some of our home rule because of the penalty aspect, it does weaken us in some way. I do appreciate that the state is taking this on and that we are now looking at assessing some penalties to people who break the law. So thank you.
Yeah, and I just think it adds a little bit of teeth to our ordinance a little bit on this. And I'm pretty sure that if you have to deal with the street racing and hearing all this from what you hear from constituents, I think a lot of people would be definitely in support of this. So thank you. We've got 2 supports and 1 opposed from Vice Chair Jackson. So we're going to move forward. Let's go to item 4D, Senate Bill 26-129.
Yes, so this is mitigate impacts of tax increment financing. We did bring this for an original opposed position. However, last night we were informed that the bill sponsor is going to be PIing the bill in committee today. So with permission from this committee, we would like to put forward a no position instead. We don't believe it would be productive to take a position on a bill that is going to die.
Okay, so Vice Chair Jackson, do you accept that position of a no position on this bill based on the information that Liz provided?
Yes.
Okay, I do as well. Councilmember Wiles.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you, Liz. So we're going to go ahead and go to 4E, HB 26-1102.
So this is the funding for Colorado Drives account, which is the bill that we got the amendment on that Tatsi was mentioning earlier regarding the HUTF funding and its correlation with House Bill 26-1289. So staff is recommending to move from an amend to a monitor position, and we did get the amendment that we were looking for.
Okay, I'm going to start with Vice Chair Jackson. Do you accept? Do you have any questions, and do you support the position of monitor on Senate on this bill?
No questions. I support the position of monitor.
Okay, Councilmember Wiles.
No questions, and I also support.
Okay, and I support as well. Okay, with no more bills, state bills from Liz, we're going to go to Shawnee. Shawnee, we have a water update. First, we'll give you a water update, and then we'll start with the positions on these. I guess, are these positions on the bills that we're going to take?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
go ahead.
they are. Yeah, so things are moving along. Actually, the two bills that we had been in a monitoring position on with respect to data centers, the SB 102 was heard yesterday. It went through hearings and it's in a position of it's still awaiting a vote. I don't think anything has moved on the other bill, which is the very pro data center bill that is 1030. We're going to keep an eye on that. I did have a conversation with Western Resource Advocates, that is the proponents for the bill, the SB 102. That happens to be the bill that Aurora Water is we are very much in agreement with that bill because it provides a lot of requirements for data reporting. And that is something that is desperately needed with respect to data centers so that we can really start to get our hands around both the energy and water consumption for that. So I may be coming back to you with that one a little bit later on, just because that one might be worth supporting, but I'm going to get a little bit more information before I come back to you on that one. Otherwise, I don't have any other substantial updates for water right this minute, other than the two that I've got on the agenda.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start with 5A HB 261310.
Yes, thank you very much. I've been giving you kind of a heads up about this bill, that we've been watching it. My understanding, I understand it's going to hearing on Monday. It may die on Monday, but in the event it does not, I think we should be prepared to take an opposed position on this bill. Just to give you an understanding of what this bill is, it requires the state to dedicate increasing percentage of funding from the Wildfire Mitigation Capacity Development Fund, which is an existing pool of state dollars that's used for wildfire mitigation, and it would move it to the Wildfire Resilient Homes Grant Program, which provides funding directly to individual homeowners for mitigation measures like home hardening and defensible space. Importantly, this bill does not create new funding. It reallocates existing wildfire mitigation dollars and requires set aside to grow over time. And so while the efforts are important, the bill shifts funding away from landscape scale mitigation, such as forest health and watershed protection. And these broader efforts are absolutely imperative for drinking water supplies, reservoirs, and infrastructures from post-wildfire impacts like erosion, sedimentation, and long-term water quality degradation. I can tell you wildfire is the biggest concern that we have, in particular in our watersheds for in a year like this for sure, and water quality and also our assets. The bill also locks in escalating funding allocations over time and reduces the state's flexibility to balance investments across wildfire mitigation priorities. So Aurora Water is recommending an opposed position because protecting source water watersheds is critical to maintain safe, reliable, and affordable water services. And this bill reallocates funding in a way that could undermine those protections. Again, it's so important that we say this. Our concern is not, we don't want to not help homeowners. That is important. However, we believe it is important to that we're ensuring that we're not doing unintentionally reducing the investment in mitigation strategies that benefit entire communities and protect our water systems long term.
Okay, thank you, Shawnee. I will start with Vice Chair Jackson. Vice Chair Jackson, do you have any questions, and do you support this position of the city of oppose on this particular bill?
Thank you, Chair Lawson. I do have a question about, well, I have a comment first. I hear why we want to oppose because we want to protect the drinking water. That's what the water should be used for. Funding for this, it's taking funding away, not creating new funding. But I do feel like the water used to respond to wildfires can amount to a lot too, and then impact our drinking water and the amount of water that we have. So I just wonder where, you know, the line is for those. So with that, I was just in DC, and one of the buckets of federal funding they're really pushing is for disaster relief. And wildfires are disasters. And I just wonder if there is funding to have both, because they both seem very important for the same purpose.
Yeah, so first of all, let me start with the first question with respect to water. So what's really important to understand about this bill specifically is the goal is to actually do forest thinning. So that way, if there are fires, they are not as significant and they do not have the massive impact across scale. So I don't know if you remember the Hayman fire. One of the major lessons that we've learned with that fire and many others is that forest thinning and forest health is very important. So that way we don't end up with these large scale catastrophic events that cause massive, it's multi-year damage. We are actually still experiencing water quality challenges as a result of the Hayman fire, and that was 20 years ago. So that is the first part. Now, yes, there is a water component that goes along with that. However, with respect to the water portion, it truly, the way that they fight fires is not necessarily impacted by either of by this bill. So this is less about wildfire fighting than it is about just making sure that we're protecting the forest, so that way we aren't having as significant of fires. As far as the federal bills, the Save Our Forests Act, that is something that we are very supportive of. We certainly do want to see the federal government acting on that. Unfortunately, right this minute, we kind of do have to take that as separate from what we've got with respect to state funding. And as you heard a little bit earlier, our state budgets are already in, there's already a pretty significant issue. And we keep seeing a creep to moving towards taking water away from, or money away from anything that has to do with protections for water infrastructure, for water, for fire, for forest health. And that has long-term implications for ratepayers. So what we're really trying to do is really look out for ratepayers in the long run with this.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering.
Sure.
No more questions. I will support the opposed position.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Jackson. I'll go to Councilmember Wiles.
No questions, and I also support.
Okay, I support the opposed position as well. So we're going to go to 5B, HB 26, and what's the last four digits of that?
You know,
bill?
I do apologize right this minute, and we're coming to you with this now before it actually has a number assigned, and that is because it is going to be introduced tomorrow, but we want to get ahead of it with you guys now so that we're not coming back with an emergency request later. So I will get that number out to you guys once it is introduced tomorrow. It is supposed to be introduced tomorrow. Our understanding initially was that it was going to be introduced last week. That didn't happen. There's been a lot of behind the scenes conversations about this revegetation bill with Colorado Springs as well as ourselves. And so we have been, it's really important that you understand that we've been talking to the proponents on this bill, and we are in ongoing conversations with them. Our last conversation with them as of this week was they just simply did not have the time to actually take into consideration the amendments that we got to them earlier in the week prior to bill introduction. So I will go over this really quickly. This one's a little bit harder for
Shawnee, can I just interrupt you really quick?
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
But what is the last, if it's introduced, what is the last four digits of the bill number? Or is it just hasn't been?
It doesn't have a bill number yet.
Oh, it doesn't have a bill number.
It will tomorrow. Okay. Yes, it will tomorrow. And
okay.
so I will send that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. And it'll be introduced in the Senate. So
okay.
This one is so the draft legislation, and that's what I can talk to you about right now, though I do know what is going to be, so we're calling it draft until it's introduced. That's what I have to call it. The draft legislation applies only to Water Division 2, and to have you have an understanding of where Water Division 2 is, that is for the most part, that is the lower Arkansas Valley. That would include Bent County, Crowley County, Otero County. And the reason why we care about that is because we most certainly, we do have water rights in that area. As you guys know, we have land that we have purchased, as well as water rights that we have purchased specifically around the Rocky Ford area, as well as a couple of other areas. So it establishes new requirements when agricultural, do you have a question, anybody? No, just make sure, okay. Establishes new requirements when agricultural water rights are changed to municipal use, and it requires revegetation or dry land farming, adds third-party oversight, and introduces water use limitations during revegetation, and incorporates local standards such as 1041 into water court decrees. I need to make this very clear. Aurora Water supports the goal of responsible land ownership. We have been doing that for a very long time, and it has been built into the decrees that we have in District 2. However, as drafted, the bill creates more prescriptive and complex regulatory framework that could impact the feasibility, cost, and predictability of water supply projects. Some of our key concerns includes the expansion of the role of local 1041 standards into water court decisions. Third-party monitoring and oversight requirements that add cost and uncertainty. And by the way, that is already something that to some degree happens right now. It's just the way that they're prescribing it. There's a certain degree of uncertainty about how that's going to pan itself out. Water use limitations during revegetation. This is probably one of the biggest ones. It actually requires that that 50% of the water rights can't be used until it actually meets a certain threshold that the third party determines is correct for revegetation. And it results in potential financial burdens from performance bonds and compliance requirements. So to explain our recommended amend position is we do believe that the bill can be improved so that we can just get to a space of neutral on it. We are seeking, first of all, and most importantly, that the bill is, while it already states it's for Division 2, there has been precedents that has been set in, for instance, things that have happened in Division 1 that makes it across the state. And so we want to have language that is inserted that makes it very clear that due to the very unique factors that are a part of Division 2 in that area, such as the geology and the arid nature, that it is strictly only going to ever really be practical for Division 2. Additionally, we want to be able to provide flexibility in how revegetation success is defined and measured. Our concern is that they're going to put into 1041 or wherever it is they're going to decide what is revegetation is based on what happened 20 years ago, as opposed to the very realistic aridification that is taking place in the state of Colorado. Ensure that requirements are tied closely to water court degrees, and help to hopefully avoid some of the supply planning and water supply planning and costs. So we already have some amendments that we have put together, and we have shared those with the proponents. Again, they've agreed to continue conversations with us. So for that reason, we are asking that we can go into an amend position on this.
Okay, can I just ask a procedural question to George really quick on this? And I probably should know this, but I guess I'm just being very particular. George, are you there?
I am.
Okay,
Councilmember
so and I'm sorry if I'm being kind of really particular. Shawnee gave all this information. It's going to be introduced tomorrow, but we don't have a bill number. We just have that. I mean, can we still do this position of amend? I'm sorry if I'm being particular. I'm just looking at the bill number that we don't have as of yet, but it's going to be introduced tomorrow.
I think you can, based on the information you have, and if the bill comes out differently, then you can take a different position, either in an emergency position, as you've done before, or at the next meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I probably should have known that, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so Vice Chair Jackson, do you support, with all of the information that Shawnee gave, it's a lot, do you have questions? And then do you support the amend position?
Yeah, it is a lot of information. And was this the bill that was added on last minute? I'm curious about that process too. because it's so much information to just be able to understand it. I know we got an update, I think, last night about 2 bills being added to the agenda. Was this one of them?
Yes, they were added around, I think, noon yesterday.
Okay. Okay. And
Vice Chair, so she did meet, I mean, Shawnee did meet the deadline of the by 12. I mean,
Okay.
I might have been a little bit whatever, so she did meet that deadline. For me, can I just say that I would prefer right now to maybe do an emergency, just because I need to kind of look at
Fair.
this. And I really don't want to take an amend position on this right now. I do probably, but can we just see if it gets introduced? That's just me. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say not take any position, and then we'll just have to do maybe an emergency, my recommendation, an emergency email or emergency meeting or however we need to do this. It's just a lot. And so that's just my recommendation for me as the chair. No position at this time. Wait until we get it gets introduced and see what happens through the amendments. Vice Chair Jackson.
I agree in the sentiment of what Chair Lawson's saying, but I do think I'll support the amend for today.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Councilmember Wiles.
Because I haven't had a chance to dig into it, I will support Chair Lawson's position as well. I just feel like this seems very complicated, and I haven't really had a chance to dig into much to it other than very surface level because we were traveling back from DC, and then I didn't work last night. So
very fair.
Yeah. So I
Shawnee,
just feel like I don't know enough to really.
Yeah. So Shawnee, can we do that? Can we see tomorrow? And then can you maybe just maybe in the email let us know about the amendments? Maybe provide a little bit more of a high level or something more, because you really went into a lot on that.
And the worst part is I have to tell you, on its best day, it's going to be complicated. What I can do, though, is once it's introduced, I will also provide you our recommended amendments and and I can send in the email to you guys a line item for why we have the recommended amendments, if that would make it easier. I was trying to avoid an emergency email situation, but I totally understand where you guys are coming from.
And I know, and I'm sorry if I'm putting the committee for extra work. It's just, I just feel for me that I need to kind of look at this a little bit, and just in case I have some questions. I'm not denying the amend position, and I know it's good to come in with an amend, but since it's being introduced tomorrow, if I just would have my colleagues or my committee members to just make sure that they look at their emails and make sure that we can get the position to them as soon as we can. Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. If it is helpful, I am happy to assist Shawnee in this effort, and also text any of the council members that the email was sent out, just so that they're aware of it and don't have to be on their emails all day, if that would be helpful.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead with that, Shawnee. I'm sorry about that, but I just need a little bit more information on this.
Totally fair. I'm learning too, for whatever it's worth.
Okay.
So I'm totally happy to do that. Absolutely. I'll get that stuff over to you early next week. Yes.
Okay, so thank you, committee members. So we'll do that, and then we'll formalize it at the next meeting. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we'll go with that. We don't have any last minute state bills. We don't have any federal bills. For miscellaneous matters for considerations, I heard that we have someone who has a birthday today, Mayor Kaufman. Happy birthday to you, Mayor Kaufman. I hope you have a fabulous, wonderful day.
Absolutely, here in my office. Thanks.
So I just want to tell you happy birthday. Vice Chair Jackson, I know at the last meeting that you said that you had a conflict with the April 2nd meeting. Is that the meeting that you were referencing?
Yes,
okay.
I do.
Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can talk about it really quickly, and see what we can do, if everybody can get their calendars maybe for this particular meeting. And then I have one for the 15th because we're going to be in the DC. So but we could talk about that one at the next meeting after you guys look at your calendars.
And I just have a meeting that goes from noon to 1. So even if we could start at 1 and go 1 hour later, that we could, if that works for folks.
Okay. Hey, Liz, is that possible? So Councilmember Vice Chair Jackson, you can meet at 1 or
Correct.
after? Okay. I'll start. Councilmember Wiles, does that work for you on that day? If it works for everybody else, or?
Sorry, just juggling both of my calendars. I think that works. Yes, it looks like it should be fine for me.
Okay, so we're just moving it 1 hour after. Liz, is that possible for everybody who
absolutely.
needs? Okay, so if we could get a calendar invite to change that to 1 o'clock on April 2nd, that would be good. I do want to say for our next meeting, if we could look at calendars, and I'm not going to put you on the spot now, for the next meeting, because that the 16th will be in DC. So we usually have a late meeting and then we travel on that day coming back from the advocacy meeting, from the advocacy trip. So not going to put you on the spot, but if you could just look up calendars for our next meeting so we can decide on that one as well. And that one's going to have to be like another day or the week before, or we might have to do it Friday. I don't know, but just can you look at your calendars?
Yeah, do you want to do that right now?
If you guys have an idea.
Let's do it, I'd say.
Okay, let's go ahead and take care of it now.
And what are the exact dates of your trip?
It's from the 14th through the 16th, and usually we have like a late meeting on the 14th, on the 16th, and then we get ready to travel back. So that's why it's kind of hard with the Pfizer.
I can do this.
Oh, go ahead, Vice Chair.
23rd at 1 is good for me if we want to move it to the following week at 1.
Okay. Liz, are you on?
I'm on. I'm still here.
Okay. So is it possible, I know that we're kind of missing the 2 weeks, but is it possible if we go to that following week?
We can, of course, we can do whatever you or the committee would like in terms of.
Or Monday the 13th. I guess you'll still be here on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that could we do Monday the 13th, Liz?
You can do whatever you like.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking at people who have to be on though. Okay. Councilmember Wiles, what about you on the 13th? And we can take care of that meeting for that week.
Yeah, I can do the 13th if it's 12 o'clock and after.
Okay, what about you, Vice Chair Jackson? I can do
that
12.
Works for me anytime.
Okay, so let's schedule that one, Liz, for the 13th. Okay, thank you, committee members. I really appreciate you guys looking at the calendars and reorganizing everything. So we have our meetings confirmed for April, that were for April 2nd, and the ones that we're changing from April 16th to the 13th of April. Is there any other comments, anything else from committee members or anybody else on this Zoom that they would like to talk about before we adjourn? Okay, well, we'll adjourn. Everybody enjoy the warm weather. Have a great, fantastic week. And I guess we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.